is because strangers have visited the land, bringing with them bad luck." "If so," said Leo with a laugh, "we shall have to fly to the Mountain to take refuge there." "Do you then wish to take refuge in death?" she asked darkly. "Of this be sure, my guests, that never while I live shall you be allowed to cross the river which borders the slopes of yonder peak." "Why not, Khania?" "Because, my lord Leo, that is your name, is it not? Such is my will, and while I rule here my will is law. Come, let us turn homewards." That night we did not eat in the great hall, but in the room which adjoined our bedchambers. We were not left alone, however, for the Khania and her uncle the Shaman, who always attended her, joined our meal. When we greeted them wondering, she said briefly that it was arranged thus because she refused to expose us to more insults. She added that a festival had begun which would last for a week, and that she did not wish us to see how vile were the ways of her people. That evening, and many others which followed it, we never dined in the central hall again, passed pleasantly enough, for the Khania made Leo tell her of England where he was born, and of the lands that he had visited, their peoples and customs. I spoke also of the history of Alexander, whose general Rassen, her far off forefather, conquered the country of Kaloon, and of the land of Egypt, whence the latter came, and so it went on till midnight, while Atene listened to us greedily, her eyes fixed always on Leo's face. Many such nights did we spend thus in the palace of the city of Kaloon, where in fact we were close prisoners. But oh! the days hung heavy on our hands. If we went into the courtyard or reception rooms of the palace, the lords and their followers gathered round us and pestered us with questions, for, being very idle, they were also very curious. Also the women, some of whom were fair enough, began to talk to us on this pretext or on that, and did their best to make love to Leo, for in contrast with their slim, delicate looking men, they found this deep chested, yellow haired stranger to their taste. Indeed they troubled him much with gifts of flowers and messages sent by servants or soldiers, making assignations with him, which of course he did not keep. If we were out into the streets, matters were as bad, for then the people ceased from their business, such as it was, and followed us about, staring at us till we took refuge again in the palace gardens. There remained therefore only our rides in the country with the Khania, but after 3 or 4 of them, these came to an end owing to the jealousy of the Khan, who vowed that if we went out together any more he would follow with the death hounds. So we must ride alone, if at all, in the centre of a large guard of soldiers sent to see that we did not attempt to escape, and accompanied very often by a mob of peasants, who with threats and entreaties demanded that we should give back the rain which they said we had taken from them. For now the great drought had begun in earnest. Thus it came about that at length our only resource was making pretence to fish in the river, where the water was so clear and low that we could catch nothing, watching the while the Fire mountain that loomed in the distance mysterious and unreachable, and vainly racking our brains for plans to escape thither, or at least to communicate with its priestess, of whom we could learn no more. For 2 great burdens lay upon our souls, the burden of desire to continue our search and to meet with its reward which we were sure that we would pluck amid the snows of yonder peak, if we could but come there, and the burden of approaching catastrophe at the hands of the Khania Atene. She had made no love to Leo since that night in the gateway, and indeed, even if she had wished to, this would have been difficult, since I took care that he was never left for 1 hour alone. No duenna could have clung to a Spanish princess more closely than I did to Leo, yet I could see well that her passion was no whit abated, that it grew day by day, indeed, as the fire swells in the heart of a volcano, and that soon it must break loose and spread its ruin round. The omen of it was to be read in her words, her gestures, and her tragic eyes. End of chapter 9 of H. Rider Haggard. Ayesha, the Return of She. Read by Lars Rolander.